Make your own large pizza stone at the fraction of a cost of buying one. But how? Don't worry. With travertine stone, you can do it. I'll show you. This video is a compilation of two different points in time. In August of 2019, I used a wet saw to cut travertine like I have done in the past. As a matter of fact, that was the way I used to cut it all the time, was using a wet saw. So I kept that in this video segment, this video itself actually, because I wanted to show you how it works with a wet saw. But then I discovered, of course, having a grinder and the pliability of travertine, I showed you how to cut the travertine tile with a grinder wheel, that's made for masonry, and that was important. So I'm leaving both in, even though it may seem a little disjointed at times when I'm showing them to you. You're saying, why is he cutting tile two different ways? Because you can, and I wanted to make sure to show that to you. Thank you. Travertine is a sedimentary rock formed by the precipitation of carbonate materials from solutions in ground and surface waters. It is a form of limestone deposited by mineral springs, especially hot springs. Travertine's appearance is found in white, tan, cream-colored, and even rusty varieties. The active ingredient in travertine is calcium carbonate, which is perfectly safe for direct contact with food, unlike asbestos, lead, or cyanide baking bricks. Yes, I made the last three up. Those don't exist for cooking with food, but the point is, this rock is very safe for contact with food. As you see here, as we look at the video in progress, you see how travertine is cut into the stones that you buy at your local tile or hardware store. So let's take a trip to the hardware store. The Lowe's near me carried travertine tile. Their price was also very good. At $6.95 per piece, that's an amazing price. When selecting your travertine tile, look at the top smooth facing of the tile and make sure there aren't any cracks in it. I'm being a little bit exaggerated here. And then when you flip it over, make sure there's no big open craters. You're going to see pitting, of course, because it's only machined on one side, but you shouldn't see any large gaps like that you can stick your thumb in. So this one's good. When hauling your travertine home, please make sure to put some barrier between each sheet and lay them flat. It could be on your seat or in your trunk, but this way if it shifts, there's no friction and there's no breakage. Before we start working with travertine, let's see what a few other people have done with it. Oh wow, the Colosseum in Rome? Oh, that's right. 3.5 million cubic feet of travertine on the exterior. Unfortunately, it didn't hold up too well due to seismic activity over time. And then there is the Sacré-Cœur Basilica in Paris. Construction began in 1875 and was completed in 1914. It is considered both a political and cultural monument in Paris. This travertine is a white travertine that is quarried in France. Now let's make our own masterpiece. So this is the travertine stone, and it's 18 inches by 18 inches. Here it's 18, I don't know if you can see that there, but it's 18 by 18. Now, what this really means is that this will fit into any 30-inch oven without a problem. However, you may need to make some modifications if you want it to last a bit longer, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Welcome to my pizza oven. But here's a stone. Here's a stone that I used and has been used for about a half a year. This stone is about a half a year old, and as you can see, it's cracked here. I'll show you if you can't see how it splits. You can piece it together, but I'm not going to. This is actually breaking apart. This is what happens over time, and part of the reason why this happens in this particular oven, and your oven may be different or it may be the same, but when it heats up, this tends to warp. I also have one other problem in my particular oven. I've got two screws here that hold the steel, hold this whole steel plate in, and they actually forced me to actually make a cutoff on the back. So I had to make a, you can see this here, a cutoff here, and a cutoff here. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to show you how I had to do that, how I had to make the cutoff. But if your oven is flat, you can take an 18 by 18 piece in a 30-inch standard oven, 30-inch size. If you have a even larger oven, that's I don't know what that'd be, a 40-inch maybe, a 40-inch wide oven with a 40-inch footprint, I'm sure it'll take it. But the 18-inch in a standard oven fits corner to corner to corner with the door closing. I've had other people try it, it does work. So this is good, but what we're gonna do in this particular video is show the customization that needed to be done in order to get a piece of travertine into my oven. And you may have to do the same, or you may be a winner where these screws are flush or they don't stick up. So in case you can't really see the screws, I want to just show this one more time here. I'm zooming in a little more. You see the screw here? There's a screw right here. I'm actually touching it. And this one here, I'm actually touching it. Whoa. Those two, for example, I'm gonna go lower put the sheet in. So if I slide the sheet back, it hits those and it doesn't go far enough in. I'll show you down here. Let me just tilt the camera down. It's not going to allow the oven to close. It's not going in all the way to the wall of the oven. So if this was flat, I put it on top of the screws. You're never going to bake with it like this because it'll crack. This will crack somewhere right in the middle because it's not sitting flat on the stove. But this would allow the front of the oven to close here because it's actually, I could actually close it. Not a problem. So this would work for most of your ovens without any kind of set screws or kind of plate screws that are above the baking surface or above the heating surface. Mine just happen to be, unfortunately, so I have to take measures to counter that. But I wanted to show you that an 18 by 18 stone does fit into your average 30-inch stove. Okay, that's it. But now, how do you cut that stone? Well, this is why I made the video, because if every 18 by 18 fit in, I wouldn't need to even do this. I would just show it to you and we'd have a 2-minute video. But there's more to it than that. In this portion, I'm going to show you how to cut the travertine with a wheel grinder and a masonry wheel. And you'll see how easy it is to cut, which is really awesome. Probably you'll say, I'm not going to use a water saw ever. And I'll agree with you. After using the cutoff wheel for masonry on a grinder, I'll never break out the water saw again for this. It's not worth the mess. Okay, so to cut stone or tile or ceramic or brick, you can grind it. You could do a water saw, and well, I'm going to do the most fun version of it, which is the messy version, which to actually use a grinder and to actually use a masonry disc to cut through the sandstone, the travertine, because the way that these dissipate heat and cut through the material is different than if you use a metal disc. If you have metal, you can try it, but sometimes the metal discs don't hold together, and that's a big problem because the speed at which these operate is dangerous if the disc flies apart. That's why the shield is always supposed to be near you and why you should never remove the shield. Some people do because they can put a bigger wheel on them. I would never do that. So anyways, enough of the safety with grinders, but the first thing you should do is use a masonry wheel. This is $1.99 at Menards. I'm sure it's $1.99 at Home Depot or any good hardware store. Even if it's $3, well worth it. But that's what we're going to use to cut the stone, and I'll show you the measurements in just a minute. Okay, before we cut, I just wanted to show you what we're cutting. These are the cutoffs. I happen to know that this is where in the stove each one of the metal the fasteners are that come above the stove line, that come above the stove plate, that interfere with the sitting of this plate flat on the stove. This is where they are on this particular stone. So I'm going to do a straight cut this way, straight cut this way, then I'm going to do a cut and a cut. And with that, I'll be able to go straight out of it. And you know, we'll get in a little intersection here, and we'll just be able to take this out, and this will go all the way into the stove. And we need to make sure we have a 10-inch clearance between the two, and that's it. That's the cut that we need to make, or I should say cuts. Okay, so I've got a 4x4 piece of lumber that I'm going to step on here while I make the cut here, and that's what we're going to do first. Is the first about inch, it's almost a 2-inch cut. Ready? Go. Ready, go. And there you go. I've got my 2 cutouts, 2 notches. This is where the first round portion is going to be, the second round portion, and this will go butt cleanly into the stove. And there you go. I've got my own pizza stone, custom made for my oven. All right, here's the point. Now let's check and see how our cut works in this particular oven. As I said, we have our 10-inch here. We have our 10-inch gap here. This is going to be between the two. And we're going to put it just like this. And it's beautiful. It fits nice. Goes nicely back and forth here. That works great. Goes all the way back to the wall. And of course, the stove closes without any problem. Now I can put my pizza right on there when I want to sear it or cook it. And it is amazing. You don't need to treat this. It's ready to go. However, I would suggest one thing. I would suggest at least cleaning it with soap and water the first time. That's it, because I don't know who's handled it. Anyways, just worth cleaning it once. You don't have to clean the bottom side because you're only cooking on the top, and that should be about it. Up next, I'm going to show you the portion of the video that shows you how to cut it with a water saw. A tile water saw, and that's just to show you that you can do it. So I've decided to do a corner cut at 45 degrees to make it so that we get around the bolt, and we really don't need this part on. We really want the whole piece here, and that way if you put a round piece on, it'll still be perfectly round. But I put sheets on, so that's fine too. So let's figure out where I want to actually put this. We go here, yep, I'll say the 4-inch mark. That'll be perfect, 4-inch. So that's going to be, I guess I really didn't need to measure the screw, did I? But actually I did, because I had to know where the screw was going to be, because we're going to have our 4-inch mark there. Now we're going to take this, line it up to where that mark is, and carry this across here like that. Carry this across here like this. Right here. Wow. Oh. Yeah. Wait. I guess I could. Like that. There we go. And I'll carry this across like that. And I'll make the same marks on the other two, and then we'll carry it over and do the cut on the water saw. I find it interesting that earlier when I was doing the grinder wheel method, I said that was messy. But as you can see, doing this with water is really quite messy. And especially when you see this spin, the splash out from the saw blade, because it's being cooled by the water as it cuts, it gets over everything. So there's no comparison. Yeah, see right there when you turn it on? There's no comparison because this is so much messier. I want to show you this cut in real time because it is pretty impressive how fast the grinder with the masonry wheel in a dry cut cuts versus the diamond wheel on this with a water saw wheel. Well, it's a water saw diamond wheel, and it really cuts slow. This is why I recommend getting a cheap grinder for $20 or $30, even if it's not a big brand name, and getting a masonry wheel and just doing it with a masonry wheel. This is close to $100 small 4-inch wheel saw, and this is really not the way to do this tile. Obviously you're going to be doing it outside, so if you're going to do it outside, just use the grinder wheel. It's so much faster. At this point I will just speed up the video for the rest of the cut. After the 2 cuts, I have a piece that will fit in my oven. Okay, I'm going to grab one of these and put it in. Now let's see how it fits. Perfect. The screw there, misses everything. Will it close properly? Yes, it will. I just had to push it back a little bit. And that's it. Hi, a couple closing notes I wanted to make before ending this video. One of the things that, this stone here, this probably takes about 15 to 20 minutes to get hot from the bottom of your oven. But remember though, it's being heated up from the bottom up. It's going to get hot fairly quickly. Another thing to be mindful of, when you shut down your oven at night, or you shut it down at the end of your baking session, you might want to leave the door open and just let the heat come out of it to heat up your house, unless it's summertime, and then you really are in trouble because the stone's going to be hot for quite a while. The stone is also great for that reason, for moderating your oven temperature. So if you have it set for 350, it'll moderate it at 350 or 400. Traditionally, when I cook my pizzas, they are anywhere between 405 and 425, but generally around 400, between 400 and 415. I gave you the range first, but realistically between 400 and 415 is what I cook with this, with these stones on. And when you put that pizza on the stone, even if it's a frozen pizza, you talk about making a nice crispy pizza, it's amazing. But be mindful of one thing. When you first use this, check it periodically so you get a feel for how long it takes for your even frozen pizzas or your handmade pizza, your hand scratch or crust or whatever crust you use, whether it's store-bought crust or your own crust, whatever. Get a feel for how long it takes to get cooked, because it's amazing, but you can also burn yourself literally, meaning you burn your crust because you are just letting it get away from you. And it'll make a wonderfully crisp pizza, and it does need a lot of time, but get the feel for it. And don't be afraid to practice with it. It's a lot of fun. Enjoy. And I just wanted to give you that primer on the heating and on the use of it, as far as building kind of a feel for how you cook with it. Enjoy. And I'm telling you, it's amazing. Oh, one other thing too, if you want to, you can always get these 18-inch sheets and put them right on your barbecuer. And you can cook right on your barbecuer as well. I've heard of people doing that. Matter of fact, on YouTube I found somebody who was doing that. Actually, it's more than one, quite a few. People were talking about using this type of stone or using ceramic tile. No, don't use ceramic tile. I tried it. I've done it. They shatter. As soon as they cool down after 1 or 2 uses, they don't hold... Because of the glazing on the top and the ceramic on the bottom, they fracture. The good thing about travertine, it may be brittle, but it's always going to stay in place in your oven, and it will hold up very well. I should have had the camera rolling outside. I wanted to dispose of the old one, and I just dropped it a few inches on the ground to hit the concrete. It just broke into 50 or 60 pieces. That's because once it gets brittle, it can stay in place a long time and look good. And it might even it'll have cracks in it, but it'll still look solid. But as soon as you lift it out and you really want to drop it, like to get rid of it or drop it to put it into a bag, it'll break up. That's why I say don't move it in and out of your oven a lot. Leave it in. It's your buddy. It's your stone. There for you. Just don't. It's not a passenger. It doesn't like to be moved a lot. Unless you want to be replacing it a lot, you're going to wind up breaking your stone. But just leave it in place, and it'll be your pal. I think that's about it now. Thank you.